Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
The Manchester derby took centre stage in the Premier League when Pep City visited Leeds United. Neither side have been at their absolute best this season, and the 3 points would have been vital to stay near the top. In the end, City were easy victors, winning 2-0 thanks to an Eric Bailly own goal and Bernardo Silva. The XG had City on top as well, whilst the XG time map showed that United only had one real chance. But what tactics did these two managers use? Let's take a look.
A quick reminder of the formations used by both sides, as seen on the OneFootball app. OneFootball will get you match updates, formation updates, as well as player and team stats, and so much more. And the best part is, you can get it absolutely free through the sponsored link in the description below.
Let's begin with City on the ball, as they dominated with almost 2/3 possession. United initially in their 5-3-2 were not pressing particularly high, ending with a passes per defensive action of over 20. So generally, City could play out fairly easily. When Greenwood and Ronaldo were higher as a 2, they could put some pressure on the centre-backs, and in these situations, Rodri could drop in from midfield, or Walker could tuck in to give them the 3 versus 2. But as City's midfield were extremely fluid, with the false 9, De Bruyne, Gundogan, and more all pushing up between the lines at times, it meant that United's midfield would often stay deeper to compact the space, meaning that Rodri would be in acres of space to dictate the game. So at times, United defensively used something like a diamond, with Greenwood dropping onto Rodri to tie him up, leaving Ronaldo up front alone, although this made it even easier for City to keep the ball in deep regions. But the natural advantage of the 5-3-2 is that it ensures the centre is well protected, but there is only one man wide on either side, and many back 4 formations have 2 men wide, giving them a natural advantage. So City look to take advantage of the wide regions. This could be more direct, as when United were defending with a higher block, Foden always looked to make runs behind Wan-Bissaka. But more often with Fernandes being deeper than usual, and with United trying to remain compact to limit the ball into these men between the lines, it meant that City could begin the play down the right hand side, with men moving across to cause the overload, with the main aim being to shift United's midfield 3. Crucially, with Foden high up tying up Wan-Bissaka, Cancelo could then easily receive switches. He could then either drive to make it a temporary 2 versus 1, or allow Foden to have a 1 versus 1 with Wan-Bissaka. Similar patterns could be repeated on the right hand side, meaning the fullbacks had the most touches in the game. So the right to left switch was often used during the build-up, whilst the left to right was often used during attacks, although both could do either. With Cancelo often deeper, Gundogan could push up into a forward position to tie up Lindelof or Bailly. If he didn't do this, United could potentially just switch to a back 4, with Wan-Bissaka pushing higher up to pressure the man on the ball, allowing the United midfield to stay set. But with Gundogan high, it meant that United stayed in a 5, and their forwards and midfield would have to shift across to deal with the overload. Down the right hand side, De Bruyne tended to stay in this pocket in the half space, whilst Jesus would stay wide, so time and again the switch came to De Bruyne, and they would have a 2 versus 1 to potentially work the cross, and in this game, City were always committing numbers into the box. At times, Walker could also join in to make it a 3. We see some of this in the first goal build-up. City have the ball down the left, and Fred, McTominay and Fernandes have all been dragged to the right-hand side. This time, it's Jesus in the space outside the midfield, and Walker charges up, and due to the 2 versus 1, has time to measure up across, which is quite dangerous, and this play later leads to the own goal. We also see these elements in the second goal. The build-up starts down City's right, and Foden being high and wide allows Cancelo to receive in the space. He plays Foden for a 1 versus 1, and when the ball comes back to him, it's Fernandes who has to cover, so McTominay and Fred begin to shift across to support. Walker then receives a switch down the right. City now overload the right, and again, the United midfield 3 are all dragged ball side, leaving space on the left for Cancelo. This cross leads to the goal. Ole realized this problem and brought Sancho in, switching to a 4-2-3-1, helping to protect the wide regions where previously switches were on. Fernandes could now also more easily sit on Rodri, reducing his impact somewhat. It would potentially have been interesting in the first half to see Ole use a flexible defensive shape, switching to a 5-4-1 at times to protect against the switch. We'll very briefly touch on United. Generally, City defended in a 4-4-2, meaning they only had a double pivot compared to United's midfield three. So often, Fernandes and Fred pushed higher up, leaving McTominay deep. So if the City pivots pressed McTominay, United would have men between the lines. However, the City men stayed deep, meaning that in the build-up, McTominay was on the ball a lot. But he's not the most progressive passer, so this was not ideal. But high up, United's wingbacks were highly offensive, and here we see a contrast, as City were proactive with dealing with these threats, switching to a back five, with Jesus becoming a wingback to protect against Shaw, allowing the rest to be compact. But against the front two, United's wide centre-back had important roles. Especially down the left, with Jesus deep, Maguire would look to advance into that space with the ball to draw a City defender out of position, creating space for the forwards, which he had success with at times. Overall, City were in cruise control for most of the match, dominating without having to be near their best. United's patchy form continues, meaning that Ole will be coming under increased pressure. But what did you make of the match? Drop it down below. And for the manager tactical score, Pep gets an 8 out of 10, with his manipulation of the wide regions working perfectly, whilst Ole earns a 3, as not only could he not implement his game plan well, but he didn't really mitigate against City's strength. But comment your ratings down below and leave a football emoji by it so I can easily search it. And if you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy the FMS Patreon. On Patreon, you'll get early access to videos, exclusive videos, as well as the ability to vote on various polls and so much more. It's a great way to support the channel, and it is now cheaper than ever. All you have to do is head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple, or press the card in the top right or the end card at the end of this video. And a special thanks to my patrons, including Tyler Avon, Efren Perez Pliego, and Whale.
But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.